Welcome back to the Always Aggressive podcast. Cory, Tanner, Lipsett, and head coach Tony Ersland joining you. Guys, we've got a lot of great stuff to talk about this week. The season kicked off. We've got a couple great duels coming up this weekend to preview. But before we get to any of that, want to really spend a little time honoring a legend in the Purdue wrestling world who passed this week. We lost Dr. Don Corrigan, former head coach and long time fixture in the Purdue wrestling world and in collegiate wrestling in general. Coach, I know you expressed some sentiments on Twitter last night, and you want to go into a little bit of what Don Corrigan meant to you.
Yeah, no, Don was great. He had been here so long, as you mentioned, former head coach, but also faculty, right? I mean, professor here at Purdue, had done it all, and was still so gracious to always come by and just see how the boys were doing in the room and catch up, as well as just talk wrestling stories, which I loved. He was former, coach in Iowa too, his wrestling roots, in Iowa, Osage, Iowa, close to where I grew up in Humboldt. So just a lot in common there. And I just really enjoyed, our time together. Brief as it was over the years, still a good friend of Purdue wrestling and Purdue University, and a man who will be missed. I know anyone that I'd ever talked about that was mentored or coached by Don, a lot of respect and a lot of love for him. So yes, a man who will very much be missed.
Yeah, Don was, Don was always around the program, obviously, with, as long as I've been here, he's been around wrestling. And anytime I ran into him, we were able to, chat wrestling and catch up and go through a couple things. Did a lot throughout the years with our athletic training program, really helped out in sports medicine. He was often a driver for kids, took them to appointments all over town and even down in Indianapolis sometimes. Allowed him to really stay connected to the athletes and spend time with them and get to know them. And, he was a guy that loved Purdue, and I hope that he knew that Purdue loved him back.
Yeah, no doubt. Just, sad, and our thoughts and prayers are with his family. But again, yeah, just such great memories of a man who has devoted a great portion of his life to Purdue.
Yeah, definitely. I know I first got to know him when he would, just show up in the room for just to watch practice. This sport has a way of grabbing hold of you, and when you grow up in the state of Iowa, it grabs a hold of you at a very young age. And when it grabs a hold of you, it rarely lets you go far into retirement in his case, and just love being around it. And like you say, great for the program to have him around. So he will definitely be missed.
No doubt.
There's no great way to transition from that to what happened last Friday night, but
we'll do our best.
But we're gonna do our best, Coach. You finally got you guys finally got to wrestle, and boy, did you come out ready against the Wildcats in that home opener Friday night, a 28-8 final on the team score. Just a lot of impressive performances, and we'll get to talk about a few of those as we go forward, but just overall impressions of the way the guys competed that night.
Yeah, Coach Corrigan would have been excited for the guys. He would have been excited for how they wrestled. He would have thought they did a good job. So, and I felt, very similarly. In this year, it's crazy, up and down, right? We've started practice and had to pause, move locations, for practice and just different things. We've been through a lot. And I'm a huge believer in consistency, right? Consistency in your training and preparation. And so we went in, and I was really eager. I thought we were prepared from, what our preparation had been like, but you never know. And when you put that many freshmen in due to a variety of reasons, as we've talked about, whether it's injury or, COVID protocols and those things, I just was very interested to see how we competed. And I was really happy that, the guys embraced the moment and embraced the challenge, and they went out there and they wrestled hard. And when you wrestle hard, you give yourself a chance, right? I mean, maybe lack of experience, for some of those true freshmen, but they all competed hard. Every guy up and down the lineup went out and did their job and got after it and created a lot of good opportunities for themselves.
Specifically, we talked about before the duel, this was the first time that you can remember in your career you had to run 4 true freshmen out there. And It wasn't just us. Northwestern had a couple true freshmen in their lineup as well. I think overall, I wanted to say like 10 of the 20 weights were manned by freshmen. 10 of the 20 dual entries were freshmen. And so it was, it was a bit of a youth parade, but as you alluded to, our kids were ready. They were ready to go, and they definitely took the fight. They took the fight to Northwestern.
No doubt. If you just look at it, even match by match, 3 of the 4 freshmen, 3 of the 4 true freshmen won, which in and of itself is tremendous. But again, if we just look at it individually, Trey Cruzy, had a very solid, tough opponent, in Yaya Thomas, still went out again, wrestled really hard. Yes, he made some mistakes, but there were no mistakes in effort. He was fighting in the match and trying to give himself opportunities. He'll learn, he'll learn and grow from that. If you look at what the next one we had was Cooper Nowry, really impressed with him. He went out and executed really well, showed some great stuff, changed some of his holds together, transitioned from one thing to another until he had his points, hit a great open blast double shot that scored, showed some athletic ability. So, and he was one that had pushed up a weight. He's a 57 pounder who had pushed up. So, again, he didn't go out and sit around and wait to see what may happen. He went out and kind of took the match and went and got it. And then, you look at Macartney Parkinson, and
my favorite match of the night, but for the record,
right. Slow first period, wasn't moving his feet like he should have. We talked, we were joking this week in practice. He's got to start moving those size 12s. He's got to get those feet moving to improve his defense. But my man got himself on top and he made the guy pay. He wasn't going to sit around and, again, see what was going to happen. He went in, he got his legs in, he went for his cradles. He was just very tough and took the match at that point, by the horns. And in every match, right, there's always those turning points where maybe it goes one way and maybe it goes the other. And so just really proud that, he got into that second period, got on top, and he went after him. He wasn't wasting time, right? So Macartney probably had the biggest win of the night from a ranked perspective.
Sure, knocked off number 22. He was Jack
22.
Jessen was number 22 at the time.
Yep. So solid win for him. And then to have Dorian Keys, kind of close the show on what had been a good, solid night for us was nice. Went out, got to his underhooks, controlled the mat, created pressure. Did what heavyweights are supposed to do. So, and again, another true freshman, great athletic ability. But first time out there, he wasn't standing around, looking around. He was like, hey, I'm going to go make this match mine. So just really happy and proud of what those guys accomplished.
Couple of notes to throw in there. In addition to Cooper wrestling up a weight, Cooper weighed in at 159 so that he could still descend to 57 this weekend if he wanted to. So he was giving up some weight in addition to it being his first career match. Nate Cummings wrestled up a weight. Down at 33 to fill in a hole for us. Dorian is, he only wrestled his junior and senior year of high school.
Phenomenal.
This is a kid that, in addition to his being his first college match, he really hasn't been doing it that long. And it was, leading up to the match that week, it was pretty entertaining. He was nervous. And wasn't afraid to tell you that he was nervous.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
It was an interesting. I always find it interesting when a kid that young is willing to kind of be a little vulnerable and be like, hey, man, I'm nervous. Like he wasn't trying to play tough or he wasn't trying to play it cool. Like he was open and honest about the fact that, like, man, I know what's about to happen here. I'm nervous about it.
Yeah, but still went out and competed, right? I mean, he used it in the right way and had a good performance. And you had mentioned Nate, Cummings. Again, I think that's a tremendous mention. A 125 pounder who bumped up for us, fought his tail off, was a little short on his finish. Like it looked like, late in the second period, there were some opportunities there, and we kind of missed our finish. We were in on a leg, and we just didn't quite get to a strong finish position quick enough and missed it. And that's kind of, when we talk about those moments, I thought that was Nate's moment to kind of bring the match back his way. But again, good effort, something he's going to learn from and grow from. It's going to serve him well. So I'm glad you brought that up. I thought all of these guys, we put them in some different roles, but they all, like I said, they accepted the challenge and went and competed hard.
Before we get too far away from Parkinson, it was really interesting watching his match. Sorry, because he got dogged in that first period. He gave up a couple takedowns. He gave up a long ride, and at the end of that 3 minutes, he looked tired. He looked frustrated, and then completely flipped the switch, that quickly. His approach changed. I don't know if his attitude changed or not, but it was a completely different match from that moment on. To be able to, at that age, to have that maturity, to move forward, to not worry about just what just happened. I mean, that speaks so highly to his character and to his ability.
Yeah, and I think, the funny thing for me with Macartney, and I'm still getting to know him, right? Like you want to see kids in all of these situations, so you really know who they are, right? We've been around them, but now we're competing, and you get to see all of these different layers. But he's a pretty low key guy. So when you say, he looks like he's maybe kind of down a little bit, like, man, he's just low key.
That's just him. Okay,
right?
that's good to know.
Sometimes I think that's just Macartney. He's a low key guy. Never seems to get too ruffled, on anything. As I mentioned, my man's got to learn how to move his feet, right? He's got to learn how to move his feet and use that length that he has. But I think what you did see, he got more confident once he stopped, Justin off the initial. He's trying to escape, the whistle blows, and he kind of gets him down to the mat. And he puts on a tough ride. You could really kind of see him this is my opportunity, and he didn't let it slip by. Mm-hmm. Some guys, they don't quite grab, like I said, take charge of it at that moment. They just kind of float on top and are happy to keep him down. And he wasn't thinking about that. He was thinking, here's my chance. I'm going to turn this guy in. And that's where you're excited for him. He didn't let that opportunity slip. Yep. But he's a very low key guy, smart as a whip, kid.
Yeah.
So
really smart kid.
Yeah. Very, very bright kid. But I think he just, he understood how important this was for him to take the match back his direction.
And I tell you what, it was interesting, Tony, if I'm remembering it correctly, Justin nearly got away in the opening minutes of the second.
Yep.
Like he came up to his feet quick, and Macartney was able to drag him back down and recenter himself on top. And so kind of to go back to Cory's point about like how he finished the first period, he's down 4-1. He's not, he's in his first college match. He may not completely be sure. To have the fortitude to stop the first move and hold on to that position before really going to work on top, I thought was really impressive. And then in addition to that, he got the cradle, which was incredible.
Yep.
And that was, he caught Justin by surprise with that. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I think we were all a little kind of like, oh, okay. But then to get the second turn in that second period, I thought that is where I was really, really impressed with the fact that, like, he smelled blood and he kept going. Mm-hmm. He kept attacking. He kept trying to score points, which is obviously something you always stress. And you always, he could have been, like you said, there's a lot of kids that have got that 4-point turn and taken the lead and been satisfied.
They'd have been fine. Yep.
You know what I mean? Because he could have decided to go ahead 5-4. He had flattened out the riding time. He's like, okay, I'll take bottom and escape and be up 6-4. You know what I mean? Like that's a way that could have gone very easily. But no, he went and got another turn, and then he looked over at the bench and he said, nah, I'm going to stay on top. Yep. It's like, I'm good here. I'm going to keep going at this. So,
well, I think that was actually big in the match too. Sorry to interrupt you there, but
no, by all means, go ahead.
I think that was important too. Us having choice in the third where we could take top, that was a nice deal. You could put him back in a dominant position, right? but that's again why we go back to, we talk about the first period as well, like move your feet, because if that's Jessen's choice and he's going to come neutral on us, now he's coming after us on our feet, and we got to be able to move our feet. So I guess that's why I think the way I do. And I mentioned move your feet so you can use that length you have. But to your point, to have choice in the third, and we go right back on top to his strong position, where he'd show dominance in the match was a good place to be as well.
I just thought it was really cool to look at the maturity and the confidence level that he had after that first 5 minutes, where he had the wherewithal and confidence to look at the bench, tell you guys what he wanted to do, and to make the decision that, obviously was the right decision.
Sure. Absolutely.
Well, and
now
we've
he
talked
just
about
needs
it. Go ahead, T. We've talked about it before that
just grow and develop.
You give these guys that sort of freedom. They have a say in the matter. If something's really feeling good to them,
sometimes
they can suggest to you, and you can be like, okay, that's great. Even with a true freshman in his first college match, okay, if that's what you want to try, let's go for it. Not all coaches even have that much freedom to sometimes let them have a say.
Yeah, I think, they're out there by themselves. We often, we're trying to teach them, right, to just be accountable to the wrestling, to themselves, to be, a strong individual out there. And so you want to be able to look at a young man sometimes, say, hey, this is your match, go finish it the way you want. Now, there's other times we're going to have strong feelings because, as I said, putting them in their best position to finish the match, close out the win, however you want to look at it, is a big deal. And that can be different. And sometimes you'll have a young man who, I'm going down just to prove I can get out, and they go down and you're rode out or you get turned because your opponent, maybe his best, maybe he's AJ Shop, right? Maybe he's got tremendous cross wrist tilts, and you're trying to prove a point. So occasionally we interject ourselves, right? But usually the guys know the game plan, and as the match develops, we can adjust accordingly. But I really believe in each guy has to understand that you got to go with how you're going to, how you believe you're going to win this match. That's a huge deal. Because I can tell you something, but if you're not quite bought in and don't believe it, we're only going to get the half-hearted effort. Right. You got to be in all the way on what we're talking about. And again, that's why trust is such a big deal. Trust is important. If you're asking them to do something maybe they're not quite sure of, they need to trust that you're looking out for them. But I think that becomes very important in these tough matches. They got to believe this is how I'm going to win the match, and then they go wrestle it with conviction.
Definitely.
Obviously the freshmen, I think we all agree the freshmen were the heroes of the night. But not to be lost. You preach always aggressive, you preach dominance, and we had two guys really go out and show it in Devin Schroeder and Thomas Panola, both picking up tech falls, both doing their thing. Schroeder with a 16-0 tech fall in about 4 minutes at 125. Panola put on a takedown clinic, scored 8 takedowns, tacked on a bunch of stall points, beat a kid 21-6, and his return to 197. Bonus points are going to be huge this year. They always are. Nice to see two kids set the tone like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you just described in different ways, we understand their skill sets, but the objective always is to go get your points, right? The wins and losses take care of themselves, and we want to be more concerned with execution of our game plan and performing, to our potential. And so obviously those guys went out and they got to their scoring holds and they were dominant. And if there's anything young guys should learn is, hey, if I do go out and I get after, what I'm good at, where I need to wrestle, success will come your way. And that's all we want guys to understand. Just, hey man, wrestle your match. Don't be concerned with just the wins or the losses. That happens as a byproduct of performing to your capabilities. And those guys in particular showed that.
What I loved about Panola's match, he comes in, he gets those first 2 stall calls in the first 90 seconds. He was just relentless. That kid, like I kind of felt bad for the Northwestern guy because Tom was just a bull, always moving forward in that match, and it was really impressive to see.
No doubt. You're going to have to be ready to wrestle a full 7 minutes. And I mean a full 7 minutes, because Tom's going to make sure, that there's pace and there's effort in that match. And he's becoming better at getting to, his scoring holds, and in fairness to him, last year he was up at heavyweight. You can't pull the trigger quite as much. We, as a small heavyweight, we didn't want him going underneath those guys, as much as he did. But, he had the underhook stuff. He had the single stuff. I mean, he had the picks. He showed, a couple of really nice attacks. Like, he varied his attacks too. So that's the one thing I was happy with, is he's showing development with his attacks, because he's always had the pace. He's always going to wrestle hard. Now he was showing, that he's able to put more points on the board as well.
Tom is coming for it this year. That is for sure.
Yeah. There's no doubt he's coming for it. So I think that's going to be big.
I got to jump in. You mentioned Christian. I love Christian. He's one of my all-time favorites. Great kid, great wrestler. This in no way needs to be seen as a negative to Christian Bruner, but he never looked like a 197-pounder. His body type was a little different. It worked for him. He made the most of what he had, for sure. But Tom looks like the Incredible Hulk out there.
Yeah, they're different guys. Bruner had a lot of length, as you're saying, for the weight class. Different body type. Tom, very short, compact, powerful kid. So, but I always go back. Like, this is the wonderful thing about wrestling. All shapes and sizes, man. All shapes and sizes. You just got to find a way to maximize, what the good Lord gave you. And so when you have a work ethic, like Tom, you're going to do that. You're going to find ways to be successful. So yeah, just like I said, excited for him. I think he's going to continue to move up. When we talk about it from a ranking standpoint, we know he's tough. I expect him to be there with the best kids this year. And so I think the rest of the country will see that as well.
Interesting note about the duel. Definitely want to make sure that this isn't lost about the fact that, like, we alluded to it a little bit earlier, but both sides were fairly depleted.
Yeah.
We started a lot of freshmen. Northwestern was without Deacon and Davison.
Yeah.
And their starting heavyweight didn't pass skin check. You know what I mean? But then you flip it around, we didn't have our 33, our 41, our 49, our 65, our 84, or our heavyweight. So, I mean, like, it's, and I think, obviously we're probably going to see a lot of that this year, where both sides are, it's going to be some sort of jigsaw puzzle of matchups and lineups and whatnot. I'm really curious to see how many different lineups we end up using this year over 9 duels. But I guess it kind of speaks to the idea, and I know you've preached this to our kids, and I'm sure this is going on in every room in the country, but, like, you have to be ready to wrestle, like, more than ever before.
Yep. Hey, I've said this before. I'll say it again. My hope is to have the lineup kind of solidified by the time we get to February. That's, what I'm looking at, right? Because what you want to do is you want to get some continuity, right? And what your lineup is. So I am hopeful that you didn't just jinx us and say we're going to have a ton of different lineups. If we can get that sorted out over the next, 2 weeks, that would be great. So I'm gonna
be like that Dr. Pepper commercial. Is that gonna be like that Dr. Pepper commercial where you guys you sentenced me to 10 weeks without Dr. Pepper? It's for jinxing?
Yes. But man, you have to have everybody wrestle. Ready to wrestle. And I know, most of the coaches I've talked to, they're going to weigh in almost their entire team and have the entire team ready to make weight, because the day of, and we've mentioned this before, but to refresh everyone's memory, you test the day of the event, or you're testing within 16 hours. And so if all of a sudden you have a positive, you've got to have somebody ready.
Next man up.
So yes, it's created a very different environment. No red shirts. We've talked about that before, but yeah, it truly is. You've got to have everybody wrestle. And that will probably be a good thing, in my opinion, that comes out of this, because in the past, when, you have red shirts and other guys, some guys instinctively, they just relax. They know I'm not weighing in. And so they slide on, hey, being ready mentally, being ready with my weight, being, that preparation. Sometimes you have kids relax on you. So I do like the fact now that the entire team basically has to be ready. Unless you're hurt and we know you can't go, you are expected to be down and ready to make weight and wrestle for us, on short notice. So that may be a good thing. One of the few good things that comes out of, COVID this year is that everybody has learned that I've got to stay ready to help the team.
Speaking of being ready to wrestle, we had better be ready to wrestle again as we head on the road for our first two duels away from home. We will head over to Champaign, Illinois for a Friday night duel against the red hot Fighting Illini, and then head north to Madison where we will we'll face the Badgers on Sunday afternoon. Coach, any thoughts just kind of looking ahead to the weekend as far as, we'll start obviously with Illinois and what they bring to the table and how we match up there.
You mentioned it. They're on a bit of a roll right now. Okay. And so they're going to be ready. They're going to be excited to wrestle. And so we need to do the same. We need to make sure again that we're better than we were last week. And that goes without saying, right? Like that's just what we talk about. Okay. We competed. We should be better in terms of both our shape, kind of our expectations of what we're doing, how we're going to do things now with testing and warm-ups and all. So, we should expect to be better, but you're gonna go in and expect a battle. And that's how it should be. Same last year. I mean, I'm sure those guys are motivated. That was our last duel of the year. It came down to heavyweight. Panola got it done, and we walked out, winning that duel. And I think they had won maybe 5 duels in a row or something like that, if I remember correctly. And we came in and knocked them off. So again, we're gonna have to be ready to wrestle hard. I'm confident our guys will be. They're excited. I like what our preparation's been like. So, again, it's just embrace the opportunity and let's go have fun. We get a wrestle, and that's how you need to take it. There's no more or less pressure because, Illinois has gotten off to a good start. We have expectations for ourselves. And so there's no more or less there other than, hey, we expect to perform at a high level and we're going to go compete.
Head coach Jim Heffernan has put together a really solid dual lineup on that team, last year and obviously rolling over into this year. They have, while they don't have a lot of guys that are ranked super high and are huge necessarily like heavy hitters from a tournament ranking perspective, they are just solid top to bottom. And they've got guys throughout the lineup who can really wrestle. Like you said, last year's duel really came down to the wire. We went back and forth with them. Got some huge wins from Parker Filius and Max Lyon, who I believe I don't think Max is going to be available this weekend. But obviously everything's still fluid. We got huge wins from them. Thomas Panola got a huge win over Luke Luffman at heavyweight.
Yep.
Close out the duel. Luke Luffman, a guy, had a huge weekend for Illinois last weekend, beat 2 top 10 opponents.
Yep.
In Ohio State's Tate Ordendorf.
Yep.
And Wisconsin's Trent Hilger.
Right.
Was really impressive there. So he's hot. Tom won't get another shot at him because he's down in weight, obviously, but I'm sure Luffman would have wanted that rematch.
I guarantee it.
But should be a lot of great matchups in that duel.
No, there's going to be good matchups up and down. There's going to be a lot of hard fought, close matches as well. And I think the team that makes their own luck wins those tough, hard fought matches. You know what I mean? That's the team you're going to see come out on top. So we just need to be ready to wrestle 7 minutes. Like I said, that at the end of the day, it's Big Ten wrestling. There's no out of conference wrestling. And every time you put your foot on the line, it's going to mean something. And so you need to be ready to go hard and perform. And at the same time, hey, have fun with this. We are competing, right? It's the first time in a long time. And I don't want to lose sight of that. These kids with everything we've done, yes, the expectation is to compete hard and get after people, but they need to have fun. They need to enjoy what we're doing the next several weeks as we make our way, to Big Tens and then the national championships.
Anything else on Illinois, Cory, from your side before we move on to Wisconsin?
Yeah, interesting scheduling notes from Illinois. So, Coach, this will be our second duel of the year. This will be their fourth duel of the year, just because of the way things shook out. They got a try last weekend. They actually wrestled the first weekend against Indiana, so they've had a little bit more, mat experience or competition experience this year. We are their only duel this coming weekend. We're also Wisconsin's only duel this coming weekend. And one thing about Coach Heffernan's lineup, next weekend, they go to Iowa City for a try against Iowa and Michigan. So they are the envy of no one next weekend in the wrestling world.
You hit them with number 1 and number 2.
Number 1 and number 2
weekend?
on the same day.
Welcome to the Big Ten, right? Welcome to the Big Ten.
No doubt.
And if you don't look forward to that kind of a test, then you probably are in the wrong league.
You're doing it wrong.
Yep.
Right? You're in the wrong league. I think, from a rankings perspective, and everybody knows how I feel about that. But what have we had? As many as 12 out of the 14 teams ranked.
First time ever. 12 of them in the coaches poll.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like every weekend, it's another test. And you got to be ready for that test. Accept it, get excited about it, and go compete and have fun doing it.
The trip north to Madison, it's been a while since we've been there. I would have to look it up, but it's been a hot second since we've been up to Madison. We'll go see Coach Bono and his Badgers. They lost quite a bit to graduation this last year, and I don't know. Seth Gross is actually now on staff after finishing up his, very, very good career. Evan Wick's not in the lineup for them. I'm losing their 49-pounder's name right now, but he was tough too. Tristan Moran at 41 is gone.
Yep.
So we're going to see a lot of new faces in Madison this year. Just give me your quick preliminary thoughts on the Badgers.
No, I think regardless of the new faces, because we just talked about ours, and ours came out and did a nice job. So I would expect that their young guys or their new faces are going to do the same thing. They're going to try to come out and do a good job. So we need to be ready. The faces change, but the standard doesn't, right? Like the standard doesn't go away. That's going to be what it is. And Coach Bono and his staff, they're going to work hard. They're going to have their guys prepared. So I would expect nothing less than us going out and being ready to wrestle again a tough 7 minutes for everybody that we put out there.
We got news from both schools. This is going to be an ongoing theme that's going to be interesting throughout the year. We'll have no fans able to attend at either Illinois nor Wisconsin. So we're going to have to kind of bring our own energy there. That's going to be that'll be a unique circumstance that will, after we were able to have limited attendance at our place, and have a little bit of crowd support, we're gonna have to bring our own energy to both Huff Hall and the Wisconsin Field House. But both will be streamed live on BTN Plus if fans want to follow that way.
Yeah, and that's it's disappointing, right? I mean, how hard these kids work, how close and tied in their families are, and they would love to be there and see these young men compete. That's not the case. We all understand, what's going on there. So that's disappointing. But hey, this is where being on, BTN and being able to watch it and still see these guys compete, that'll be nice for everyone's families. But to your point, I think this year will be about whoever brings their energy from the bench as well, right? We need to do a good job to make sure that everybody's into the duel and that you're excited. Now, the guys that are going to be wrestling, you don't need to be ready until you put your foot on the line. But as I mentioned, we're having everybody down to weight and ready to go. So you expect those guys to really be there, support, and help create some of that energy for your team. I do. I believe that more than ever, that's going to be a big deal because these arenas are going to be empty. And we've got to bring the energy from our bench. And that will be key.
How do you feel? I mean, this kind of this is kind of a softball here, but like, does the increased travel party size with, the fact that we're able to bring 20 guys this weekend instead of 15, does that adds to the bench excitement and energy level, correct?
Yeah, it should, right? It really should. In my mind,
right.
That's, there are some guys who may be traveling this year in the past that wouldn't have, right? I mean, typically for a multiple dual weekend, such as a Friday, Sunday competition, we would have 15. We've got 20. So we're going to have 5 more kids with the ability to travel. And you hope, right, that that experience and being with the team and being on the bench during the duel, right, they learn a lot from that, and they'll take a lot individually. But then at the same time, hey, be into the duel, help your teammates out, support those guys, and let's enjoy this.
Speaking to the extra guys and the extra matches, we only wrestled 3 extra matches in the first duel against Northwestern because, as we said, both rosters were pretty depleted. Looking to have quite a few more this weekend with Illinois and Wisconsin. How exciting is it as a coach to get to watch some of these other kids compete that normally wouldn't be able to?
No, I think that's, especially in a year like this, and I know I've said this before, but I'm going to go back over it. When you're used to having opens and things like this, people, have opportunities to compete. And now to find a way to get a young man a match here and there, albeit it's maybe limited, is still great. You should be rewarded with that opportunity through all the hard work that you do. And if you're making weight, as I said, every duel, it still doesn't guarantee you the opportunity, but when you get it, you're ready and you can do a good job. That's the thing I'm most excited about with this.
You brought up the dual meets or the open tournaments, in the past. The downside of the open tournaments is more often than not, you're not able to be there for those because we have a varsity competition going on somewhere else. How does it play into their development and your ability to kind of see them and coach them, and the fact that you're able to do these extra matches instead of sending them on the road with one of our graduate assistants or something for an open?
Yeah, no, I think that's important. It allows you to keep a handle on those kids and their development or how they're competing, so you can have those valuable conversations and helping them move forward, right? If you see some things that need to be addressed, right? Because those guys are the future of the team, right? Some of those young guys that are going to these, they're the future, and they've got to understand what your expectations are, how you do things. That becomes incredibly important. And so that's why I really enjoy like the Michigan State Open. Usually everybody's at the Michigan State Open. So not only do I see the varsity guys, we see everybody else in the building. In the past, UIndy, the Greyhound Open, they have that. That's typically been on a day when we've not had other events. So I've been able to go down and see that, the past few years. And I just find that valuable to get to know those guys and how they compete, where they need to be, kind of pushed or developed. So I think those things become very important. And that's why I love freestyle, right? We get done during the season, and then you get into April and you got the U20s and U23s. And so sometimes those young guys who've not been competing as much, they were redshirted in the past, you get to see a lot of them. And to me, you learn a lot.
Cory, I don't know how much else I've got for today. Anything else on your mind?
Yeah, I just wanted to close the loop on the Wisconsin history here. You mentioned it's been a while since we've been there. 2018, the last time we wrestled at UW Fieldhouse, when we went up there, took a 25-15 victory on the team score on the season's final day. The duel actually clinched when Nate Limix got a late takedown on Eli Stickley to win that matchup 6-4. He trailed 4-3 with 21 seconds left, got the late takedown on the ride out to clinch the victory. So wins that day by Bruner, Leidy, Ben Thornton, Luke Welch. So it was a good day for the Boilermakers, and hoping for another good day Sunday up in Madison.
Yeah, no doubt. And then one funny thing about that duel back then, we had a lot of Wisconsin guys on the team.
Yep.
With the crowd support that day was really big. We won't get that this year, clearly. I don't think Wisconsin's going to get that crowd support either, right? So But I just remember, obviously, great team win, but we had a lot of people in the stands up there that day. So that was a fun day and something I'll always remember.
Yeah, between Soufflon and Thornton and Morrissey, I imagine we probably had a heck of a crowd there.
Yeah, and even Max Lyon, who is not from Wisconsin, right? Obviously, but Western Dubuque, right on the border, just a stone's throw away. So I just remember we had a great crowd that day as well.
Perry got a big fall over Andrew Crone to start off the duel, and it just sort of rolled from there. Yeah, no, I think we're good, Coach. Good luck this weekend. Travel safely, and can't wait to see you guys on BTN Plus.
Thank you.
We'll leave it there until next weekend. Boiler up.